My sister asked me to be her bridesmaid. I said yes. Then found out her fiancé and I have something in common, not what anyone expected. When Lena asked me to be her bridesmaid, I said yes without blinking. No big pause, no drama, just a soft, certain yes. We've never been the matching tattoo, tell everything type of sisters, but we've always been something better. Solid. I'm 27, Lena's 29. She's the one who helped me move after my last breakup, no questions asked, just 3 hours of lifting boxes and a bottle of wine after. I'm the one who pretends to need her when she doesn't want to go home for Christmas. We don't cling, we cover. And when she said, "I want you right next to me," I knew she meant it, not just in the lineup, in life. She met Eli at work. They both work in project management, the kind of job where you're paid to make chaos look clean. He was smart, calm, well-dressed in that expensive but understated way. The first time I met him, it was at a brewery. He brought Lena her favorite cider without her asking, made a quiet joke about Excel formulas, smiled at me like someone who already planned to be family. I liked him, because she loved him. And then I heard his last name. Holloway. I laughed a little, said small world. It was my last name too. Well, it used to be, before my mom married Peter. Before we blended and started calling it normal. Still, Holloway's not a wildly common name. But I didn't let it get to me, didn't spiral, just told myself it's probably nothing. Names repeat, coincidences happen, and if there were anything to worry about, someone would have said something by now, right? Then I met his mom. Vanessa. It was an engagement dinner, catered, soft jazz in the background, centerpieces made of eucalyptus and white hydrangeas. She hugged me the second I walked in, said, "You're beautiful just like your mother." I froze. Just like your mother, except. She didn't know my mother, or so I thought. The rest of the dinner blurred, small talk, clinking glasses, toasts with slightly too long anecdotes, but one moment stuck. Vanessa turned to me after dessert, tilted her head, and said, "Do you still go by Holloway, or did you take your stepdad's name?" She said it casually, like someone commenting on the weather, but there was no way she could have known, no way she could have pulled that from thin air. I never used that name professionally, never posted about it, never mentioned it at the table. Only 2 people still called me by that name, my mom, and the man who gave it to me, the man I've never met. Until that moment. He was a ghost, a blank space in every family story, and suddenly, he had a name again, one that echoed from her lips. Like a fuse already lit, her name was Vanessa. Elegant, practiced, warm in the way people are when they've been trained to be. She wore pearls and a satin blouse that didn't wrinkle even when she moved. She hugged me like she meant it, not stiff, not overly familiar. Just enough to make it feel real. "You're beautiful," she said, "just like your mother." The words landed sideways, because how would she know? She'd never met my mom, or at least she wasn't supposed to have. I smiled politely. Let it go. Told myself I misheard, or she was just being kind. We were halfway through dinner when she leaned over and asked, "Do you still go by Holloway, or did you take your stepdad's name?" I blinked. She didn't ask what I used to go by, she asked if I still used it. Like someone who'd always known, and not from Facebook, not from conversation, not from Lena, because Lena didn't even know I was born a Holloway. Only people from my childhood knew that, and my mom made sure barely anyone stayed in our lives long enough to connect the dots. I set my fork down, excused myself to the bathroom, washed my hands, twice. Stared at my reflection like it was supposed to explain something. Vanessa knew. She didn't stumble over my name, didn't ask about Peter, didn't act surprised when I sat beside Lena. She just looked at me like something finally made sense. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't a weird coincidence. This wasn't just a man with a familiar last name. This was something else, something deeper, something shared. And whatever it wasn't a mistake, it was a secret, buried, polished, and starting to crack. I called my mom that night, late, almost midnight. She answered on the 3rd ring like she always does, sleepy but alert. "Everything okay?" I told her I had a weird question, said I needed her to be honest, and I asked, "Do you know a woman named Vanessa?" She didn't even hesitate, didn't play dumb. She said Vanessa's name too fast, too ready. Like it had been sitting on her tongue for years, waiting to fall out. Then she said, "She's nobody you need to worry about." Which of course meant she was exactly who I needed to worry about. I pressed. Did she know my dad? Silence. Not defensive silence, just cold, heavy, and hollow. Like someone had opened a door behind her and the air shifted. Then I asked the question I hadn't asked in years, the one I was taught not to ask. Why don't I know who my real dad is? She didn't answer, not for a long time, just kept breathing slow and uneven, like she'd been waiting for this call, and dreading it in equal measure. Finally, she whispered, "Because I didn't want you to end up like them." And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a family secret, it was a fracture, one she'd spent decades covering with silence. And now I'd pulled the pin. "Them?" I asked. "Who's them?" She didn't answer right away, just sat in it, let the air thicken, then she said, "Men who start families and disappear into new ones." Her voice was tight, worn down, like she'd practiced that line 100 times but never had the nerve to say it out loud. I didn't yell, didn't accuse, I just asked the question sitting at the center of everything. Did he start one with Vanessa? She exhaled too hard. Too careful, didn't say yes, but she didn't say no, and then, softer than I've ever heard her speak, "You need to talk to him." Which meant she already knew, had always known. And now she was handing the secret off to me. I found him. Tomas Holloway, he owns a used car dealership 2 towns over. Big red sign out front, balloons tied to every antenna. Slogans like "Holloway deals you can trust." Trust, funny, I showed up on a Wednesday afternoon. No appointment, no warning, he was in the back office, wearing a shirt with his name embroidered on the pocket like a badge. Tomas, same eyes, same crooked smile, like someone had photocopied half of me. He looked up when I stepped inside, paused and said, "I knew this day would come." No surprise, no questions, no apology, just resignation. I sat down. He didn't ask how I'd been, didn't ask if I had a good life. He just leaned back in his chair, ran a hand over his face, and said, "You can't tell her." No explanation, no warmth, just fear. And it wasn't fear of me, it was fear of what I might ruin. His second chance. His new version of fatherhood. His lie. I didn't yell, didn't cry, I just asked, "Are you sure? Are you sure Lena and I share the same father?" Tomas didn't blink, didn't hesitate. He looked right at me and said, "I had doubts. But when I saw your eyes that day, yeah, I'm sure." That day, the engagement dinner, the moment I walked in. And Vanessa smiled like she already knew how this ended. Tomas looked out the window then, toward the lot full of cars he'd rather talk about. And he said, "Some truths don't help anyone. But this one, this truth, it might destroy someone, not because it's ugly, but because it was buried. And now it's alive, with a name and a ring and a wedding date." I went to the next dress fitting. Because I still wanted to be a good sister. Because I still didn't know what to do. Because there was no script for this kind of betrayal. The boutique smelled like roses and satin. Lena twirled in front of the mirror, smiling, glowing. So full of joy, I almost forgot what I came there carrying. She talked about their honeymoon, the kids they might have, how excited she was to finally blend our families. And then she said it. The line that broke me. "No more secrets." She said it like a vow, like it was already true, and I couldn't let her keep believing it. Not when I was the secret, not when we were the secret, so I pulled the letter out of my purse, folded, shaking, and handed it to her, right there in front of the stylist. Our mom, Vanessa, no introduction, no explanation, just the truth in her hands on white paper, while her veil was still pinned. Lena read it, all of it, 3 full minutes. No blinking, no sound, just her eyes moving across the page. Like she was reading a script that changed the entire 3rd act of her life. When she was done, she didn't cry, didn't scream. She folded the letter once, laid it across her lap, and said, "I need everyone to leave, except Sophie." The stylist stepped back, our mom froze. Vanessa, she looked like someone had slapped her across the face, but knew she wasn't allowed to react. She opened her mouth. Lena didn't even look at her, just said again, "Leave." And they did, one by one, until it was just the 2 of us, in a room full of mirrors, and a dress that suddenly didn't look like it belonged to anyone. I stood there, heart pounding, hands shaking, wondering if I'd just saved her, or ruined her life. She didn't move, didn't look at me right away, just stared down at the letter, like it might still chain if she read it again. Then finally she asked 2 questions, not dramatic ones, just the kind that carve straight through you. "Did you know?" "No," I said, not a whisper, not a sob, just the truth. Then quieter, "Not until the dinner. Not until she called me by my old name." Lena nodded once, like she was checking something off, then she asked, "Are you sure?" And I said, "As sure as I was about being your bridesmaid." She closed her eyes. And I swear, for a second, I thought I heard her cry, but it wasn't a sob, it was breath, one long, broken inhale. Then she opened her eyes, took off the veil, and said, "Call the photographer, cancel the shoot." They postponed the wedding. Officially, it was phrased as needing more time. Privately, it was something else. Lena told Eli the truth, every word. She waited until they were alone. No drama, no audience, just a woman who deserved answers. And a man who owed them. He didn't deny it, didn't act surprised. He just looked at her and said, "I've known since college." That was it, no apology, no tears, no explanation of why he let it get this far. He knew, and he stayed. Not to build a future, but to protect the version of his past that didn't include her. She ended it that night, took off the ring, placed it in the box herself, closed it without flinching, and walked, no speech, no closure. Just the sound of her heels against the tile. As she left the version of love that was never fully hers to begin with. We don't talk about the wedding, or about Eli, or about Tomas, not out of avoidance, just preservation. Like if we name it too often, it'll take up space it no longer deserves, but we text more now, check in, little things, a meme, a voice note, a photo of brunch with the caption, "You'd have hated this omelet." Last week she sent one that just said, "Want to do a sister's trip this fall?" No explanation, no pitch, just a soft offer, and I said yes, not because everything's fine, but because for the first time in a long time, we're choosing each other, no secrets, no ceremony, just us. When people ask why the wedding was called off, Lena says, some things weren't meant to be. No bitterness, no backstory, just the cleanest version of the truth she can give strangers. When they ask what we are to each other now, I say, still sisters, just not the kind we thought. Because DNA is complicated, but loyalty isn't. And when I think of the dress, the one she never wore, I don't think of loss anymore, I think of her, folding that letter, looking at me through glassy eyes, and saying, "You didn't ruin it. You revealed it." And there's no aisle, no bouquet, no set of vows that will ever mean more than that. Thank you for watching. Please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I love you all.